Hey guys, welcome to Stay Productive. Today, I want to walk you through 26 Notion tips for beginners. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first tip is to use slash commands. So if we hit slash, then we can choose from a variety of things. We have basic blocks where we have things like text and page. We can do headings. We also have inline elements, dashboards, pretty much anything that we can do in Notion, we can do with the slash command. So we'll just do slash page and create a new page, and we'll call this page 3. And then if we go back in the breadcrumbs to page 1, we can see the page that we just created. So the second tip is to use the slash command that we just learned and use that to create multiple columns. So if we go slash columns, then we can choose between 2 to 5 columns. So if we choose 2 columns and then go column 1, and then column 2. So our third point is to export a page as a PDF. So if we wanted to create a PDF of this page 1, we can go to the 3 dots in the top right corner and go to export, and we'll change the export format to a PDF. And then we can adjust anything that we need to here. We're just going to go export, and this will take just a second, and then we can open it up. So then we have our page 1 with 2 columns. Tip number 4 is to group similar items in a database. So here we are in my articles database, and if we wanted to group these by author, then we just go to these 3 dots, choose group, and then choose whatever column we want. So in this case, we're going to go to author. And this leads into point number 5. So tip number 5 is to sort items in a database. So now that we have our articles database grouped by author, if we want to sort this by title, we can just go to sort and choose our column, in this case title, and then we choose either ascending or descending. So we'll just leave it in ascending. And there we go. Tip number 6 is to filter items in your database. So if we just want to see articles from Cal Newport, we could go to filter and choose author, and then we'll choose Cal Newport. So now we're just seeing articles from Cal Newport. And if we wanted to turn off the grouping to make this look a little bit better, we could do that as well. Go to group, and we'll set that to none. And then that's a little bit cleaner for us. So tip number 7 is to change the peak mode. So if we click on open for this analog January, and we go to the peak mode settings, we currently have it set to side peak. And what this allows us to do is to drag the size of the article. We also have center peak, which will open the article in the center of the page. And we also have full page, which will make it take up the whole page. And we can get out of this by going back to our articles database. So tip number 8 is to toggle the sidebar. And we can do this in 2 ways. First is to go to the sidebar and we can click on these 2 arrows and close it and open it that way. We can also hit Command backslash, and that will toggle it as well. And on Windows it's probably Control backslash. So tip number 9 is to add a column to a database. So in this articles database, if we want to add a column for the date that we read an article, we can just click on the plus sign and choose our property. In this case it's a date, and we'll call this date read, and hit enter. And now we can choose the date that we read an article. So we'll just choose today. We can also change the type of a column. So let's say that for this date read, we wanted to instead change it to just read, and we want to have a checkbox. So in that case, we could change our title and change the type to a checkbox, and then we can just check it off. So tip number 10 is use the search shortcut. So instead of going over to the icon for search and clicking it, a quicker way would be on a Mac to hit Command P, and on Windows it's probably Control P. So tip number 11 is to add an icon to our database. So in order to do this, we'll just move our mouse to the top left corner and click Add Icon. And we can use any of the emojis that they have or any of their own icons. If we choose one of the icons, you can also change the color now, or we can upload our own icon. So for this, I'm just going to go over to Flaticon, and you can use any site that you want, but I'll leave a link to this one in the description. So if we want to find an article icon, they've got over 6,000 to choose from, and they also have filters. So we'll just filter it out and we'll just pick one at random. This one looks good. We can download as a PNG, and they have a free plan and they also have a paid plan. So in order to upload this, we're just going to go to custom, and then I'm just going to drag the file in that we downloaded. And there we go. We've got our own custom icon now. So tip number 12 is to use Notion's WebClipper. So let's say I have this article over here on Quiet Quitting by Cal Newport. If we wanted to copy this into our Notion database, you just click on the WebClipper icon. It's going to pull in the title of the article, and it's going to let us choose what database we want it to go to. In this case, we're going to choose page 1, and we'll click Save. And if we go back over to page 1, here's the article. We can click on that, and it's just going to clip the article itself. So tip number 13 is to toggle between light mode and dark mode. And to do that on a Mac, it's Command Shift and L, and on Windows it's probably Control Shift and L. So we can just toggle back and forth between our dark mode and our light mode. And this leads us into our next point. So tip number 14 is use the Chrome extension Notion Enhancer, and they may have this for Firefox as well. And I've already got it installed, so I'll include a link in the description for how to get to this. But they have extensions that you can add some functionality to Notion. But what I'm going to look at here are the themes. We can choose from any that they have. So I've been using the Nord theme for most of this tutorial. So we'll go back to turning that on. And you can also choose a light theme. So we'll use this Grubbox Light. And just click Reload to apply changes. Now when we go back, you can see that we have the light theme. And we can toggle over to the dark theme. And if we want to go back to the defaults, we can just disable whichever theme that we don't want. Again, hit Reapply Changes. So tip number 15 is to make our page full width. And to do that, we just go to the 3 dots in the top right corner and turn on full width. So tip number 16 is about auto-resizing your columns. So if we click in the header of a column, in between the 2 columns, you'll see this blue line. Just double click that and it's going to auto resize that column. And sometimes you're going to get some wrapping like we're seeing here. And in order to turn that off, you can just right click on the column header and turn off column wrap. And then that'll expand it out a little bit. So we can do that with all of our columns if we want, just to save some space. So sometimes you're going to run into this situation where the heading information is quite a bit longer than the record information. And so when you double click on it, it's actually going to minimize the space and it's going to cut off part of your heading. And if you wanted to correct this, there's really no way in Notion that you can do it. You just have to manually drag the column heading back out. And something to note along those lines is with checkboxes, since there's no data and you just have the checkbox, if you double click on the column heading, it's just going to show you that checkbox. It's going to completely remove that heading. Tip number 17 is about upgrading to a paid plan. So if you go to Notion's website, or if you try to upgrade within the desktop app, the cheapest option that you can upgrade to is the Plus plan, which is $10 per month. You can't upgrade to the Pro plan, which is $5 per month, unless you do it through mobile. Tip number 18 is to set up reminders. So we've got this article here. Let's say we want to set a reminder to read it tomorrow morning. So I'm just going to set this up at the bottom. What you're going to do is you're going to type the @ remind tomorrow 8 a.m. So then tomorrow at 8 a.m. we're going to get a reminder to read this article. And if we want to change the time or change the date, we can just click on it and change it to, say, 10 a.m. on the 29th. There we go. So tip number 19 is to set up different views for a database. So I've got this database here called Books to Read that I just set up, and by default we're in a table view. So if we want to add a board view as well, we can click on the plus sign and choose board, is defaulting to group by the first column, which if you go back here was this reading status column. Let's say that I wanted to change this to be grouped by who recommended it. So we can go to group and change group by to recommended by. And in this case, there's only Ali Abdal is the only person to actually recommend anything in this table. So here we are in the board view, and we've got it sorted by the first column, which was reading status, I believe. Yeah, reading status. And we can add different types of views if we wanted to. Say a calendar view, if that made sense for us. So this calendar view is just showing us the date that we actually finished the book. We can change the name on these views as well. Let's say we wanted to call this, instead of calendar, we'll call it calendar date finished. And we can also create multiple views of the same type. So let's say I wanted to create another table of just the books that I haven't finished. So there's two ways we can do this. The first is we can click on the plus sign, click on table, and we'll call this books I haven't read. And hit enter. So it created the table, but you notice that the order of the columns here isn't the same as it was in our books table. This is going off of the properties, the way that they're sorted already. So like name, date finished, date started. So let's say that we actually wanted to keep the same column order that we had in this books table. How we would do that is, let's go ahead and delete this table here. And we can right click on it and go duplicate. And call this books I haven't read. And since we're filtering this by what we haven't read, we're going to put a filter on it for the date finished. So date finished, we're going to put is empty. So that way we know we haven't finished these books. So a more logical way to do this would probably be to filter it based on the reading status. So if we click on filter, go reading status is not finished. So now we're seeing the books that we haven't finished yet. So tip number 20 is to drag and copy records from one database to another. So we've got this article on quiet quitting. Let's say that we wanted to copy this image and paste it into page 2. So we're just going to click the image, hit Command C to copy it, go to page 2, and we're going to paste it in there. Another way we can do it is we can actually move information. So let's say I've got this quote here, and I want to move it from this page to page 2. Just highlight it, and we just drag and drop it over here in page 2. So now it's gone from page 1, and it's in page 2. So tip number 21 is to drag and copy records in a database. So I'm just going to create a full page database here real quick. And we'll just add a column here. We'll call it score. And let's say our score is 50. And we want to copy this to the next 2 rows. If we go to the bottom right hand corner here, we can drag vertically and just pull that down, and it's going to copy that value to the next 2 rows as well. So something on my wish list for Notion is that we could actually drag and copy these horizontally, but currently that's not an option. We can only do it vertically. So tip number 22 is to duplicate blocks. So let's say that I wanted to copy this URL and paste it at the bottom. We can just left click on the 6 dots here and choose duplicate, or we can hit Command D on Mac or Control D on Windows. And it's just going to make a duplicate right below it, and then we can drag that to the bottom if we wanted to. So tip number 23 is to link our task and projects. So I'm going to do the slash command, database, and we're going to do a full page. And I'm just going to call this task. We'll change the name of our table as well. And then we're just going to create some tasks. Email client X, pick up dry cleaning, and go to the grocery store. Okay, so I'm just going to create another database, do another full page database, and we're going to call this projects. And we're just going to make this real basic. We're going to have one for personal and one for work. So I'm just going to change the name of this page to to-do list. So then I'm going to jump back into my task database, and I'm going to add a column for relation, and I'm going to choose that projects database that we just created and add relation. And now we can select the columns from that projects database within our task database. So email client, we're just going to call that work, and then pick up dry cleaning as personal, and go to the grocery store as personal. So here in our to-do list, I'm just going to create a link to that database. So we type create, we've got this link view of database, and I'm going to choose the task database. And here we've got it on our to-do list. And we can change things on here and they'll flow through to our task database as well. So if we want to add a new item, call this task XYZ, go back into our task, and it flows through there as well. So tip number 24 is to create recurring tasks. So let's say that we wanted to pick up dry cleaning and we wanted to do this every week. So what we need to do is add a checkbox field, and we're also going to add a field for the created time. So now that we have a name for our task, a checkbox, and a created time, we can go to new and new template. And we're just going to call this pick up dry cleaning, and then we can just click out of this box. And we've got this template for pick up dry cleaning. So if we click on these three dots, we can edit the template. And we're just going to go repeat, and then we can do it every day, every week, every month, or every year. So I'm just going to select every week on Friday. We're going to set the first one for today, and we're going to do 12:01 p.m. And we're going to click save. So here in the next few seconds, it should pop up, and there we go. New task was created for pickup dry cleaning at 12:01 p.m. So tip number 25 is how to recover deleted content. So we've got this task table here, and let's say that I accidentally deleted go to the grocery store. So now if we wanted to recover that, we can go to the three dots in the top right corner and go to page history. And it's going to show all the history for this page going back as far as our plan will allow us. So different plans have a different amount of page history that they'll keep. But for this example, we're just going back to the 12:04 example where we have go to the grocery store. And we're just going to hit restore version and restore. And there we go. So our final point is how to back up your data. So if we go to the top and click on the three dots, go to export. If you just wanted to export your current page, you could do it this way. You can choose PDF, HTML, or Markdown and CSV and click export. But if you wanted to back up your entire workspace, what you do is you go to settings and members, export all workspace content, and you can choose either HTML, Markdown and CSV, or PDF if you're on the business plan. You can include everything or everything except for files and images, and we're just going to click export. So depending on the size of your database, this can take a while. So those are my 26 Notion tips for beginners. If you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe and turn on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.